So finally, in 2012, I think, we've got a proper new Ratchet and Clank game that actually played more like a cracking time. Actually, 2013, my bad. The thing is that the marketing of this was a bit all over the place, similar to Fusing Time had more marketing, I would argue, while this instead into the Nexus. First of all, the menu is so very shallow, if you ask me. Into the Nexus, similar to Thieves in Time, was a late-gen PS3 title, so everyone was caring mostly about having people care about the PS Vita, Last of Us, and the upcoming release of a PS4. So this was basically just there for, damage control in the meantime. That being said, we'll have to see actually how it pans out. So, after that mobile game that I said happened, Ratchet and Clank TM had captured one of the two evil criminals that had kidnapped the Technoids in that game, the Prog twins as they're called. And this is where we pick up. More than anything, this is the one title that tries to actually remember, oh wait, this is a sci-fi series, let's try to see what the dangers of space are.
We must have picked up some Terra tropes when we flew through the asteroid belt.
And to be quick, the Japanese name of this game is the same.
How sadly, adequate.
We simply need to recouple the ion converter.
Alright, let's get to it.
Maintenance work.
You can also see that Ratchet has another slight redesign, and the animation, especially the facial ones, are beginning to be more fluid, more proper. So, unfortunately, hey, Stalwin! Now she's played by Ali Hills. So after being lightning, she was actually busy with this. It's not her only credited role. There's another character where she voices. I will mention when it becomes important later. But yeah, and also the sense of humor is also on point.
Our sensors picked up some sort of rupture in the Deck 3 power grid. Everything okay?
Yeah, that was my bad. Tried to save time by piloting through an asteroid field.
We will deliver the prisoner to the Vartax Detention Center in approximately 2 hours.
Then you'd better take her out of cryosleep now. The faster you turn her over to the Vartax guards, the better.
Oh, are you worried about us?
Vendra Prog isn't like the other criminals we faced. She's cold and empty in a way I've never seen. Promise me you won't go near her without Cronk and Zephyr, okay?
We'll check in with them right now. I've got everything under control, Tal. Don't sweat it.
So, again, one of the Prog twins is in custody. Since Ratchet and Clank, alongside Cronk and Zephyr, are actually reaching the place where they need to actually give her to the authorities, they actually have to detach the cryosleep from her chamber.
Fun fact, actually, around this time, Ali Hillis was also voicing Emma Frost for the X-Men Marvel anime.
Huh.
That said, hey, Palutena, she seems to have that good tone for the humorous down in this game, so...
So, your starting weapon is the Omni Blaster. Classic pistol, and of course another new Omni Wrench model. Again, this game is a bit compact in how it presents things and the length that it has, but it definitely still tries to pack enough of a charm, to be a fun experience, as you will see. However, as a reminder, this is still the emulated version, so the more crisp stuff and the performance is just because of that. It's otherwise it would be more grainy and runs at 30 frames per second when it feels like it. Oh look, it's the plumber. Are you the plumber this time around? Last time it did not went well,
Escorting Vendra Prog to the Hooshgow. She's a mean space witch, that's for sure.
And yes, it seems we are finally dealing with a villainess proper.
One that also uses magical powers rather than tech.
Which is interesting. I mean, yes, there's been mystical elements and, you know, prophecies and whatnot, but most of our stuff has been tech-based that we've dealt with. This, if I recall correctly, was the first time we dealt with straight-up magic, basically.
If I recall correctly, yes, and there's also a specific reason. The game actually gives an explanation where her power comes from. So, your first order of business is to wake up Cronk and Zephyr.
What's happening? Are we under attack?
Hey, Zeph. Sleep well?
Will you look at that lazy scrap heap? Always snoring. Wake him up, would you?
Yeah. What is it? Is Tachyon back?
Morning, Cronk. Rise and shine, fellas. It's time to wake up Vendra Prog.
Do we have to? That space witch is bad news, I tell you.
Are we quit your whining, you darn fool? We're supposed to turn her over to the authorities. Now, come on.
Lousy space witch. Kidnapping all them terragnoids. Hurting all those helpless citizens. For shame.
You hang back while Cronk and I wake up Vendra.
Deactivating cryosleep on prisoner 9971. Prog. Vendra. Please stand by. Error. Power fluctuation detected.
Well, crud.
Wow, deactivating the cryosleep to a person with magical powers with nothing to actually shield it up otherwise cause problems. Who would have guessed?
Maybe we should have had a device for, you know, transporting her to the prison and then letting her out of cryosleep.
Yeah, I was about to say, why did you have to deactivate the cryosleep now? Could you just wait the authorities to do that?
Hang on, Cronk. Zeph, are you in
But
here?
then we wouldn't have a plot. In which case
Well,
I say...
keep that in mind because the contrivance is going to reach a critical level by the end of this part.
Yeah, I was about to say, when it comes to Into the Nexus, from what I can gather, people for the most part praise the gameplay, but are iffy on the story.
Oh, I like the story, except one thing that will happen in this part. Otherwise, it's a perfectly fine episode of a week that continues the saga of Ratchet having to ponder if he's gonna see the Lombaxes or not.
Of course, this game had one stigma to deal with, of course. For a good chunk of time, a lot of people thought this was the last Ratchet and Clank game because after this game, the series went on hiatus, and...
Well, that's because there was a movie in development. The first trailer got released around this time, if I recall correctly, the first teaser, which was stated to be released, not too long from now, from the point of release of this game. That eventually became the 2016 movie, which led to the imagining and the perception of people that Insomniac and Sony had given up. They believed that the plot had become too specific, too complex, and was meandering too much, so they were going to pull the reset button completely. Thankfully, it has been averted with, Rift Apart so far. But again, we'll have to see if we finally get another game that maybe properly concludes the story or not.
You okay?
Yeah, we're good. I think it's safe to say Vendra's proton field is down.
I don't think we should have woken her up, Rook. What she can do, boy, it's not normal.
Just get that gravity generator running. Clank and I can handle a few asteroids.
Hang on, Rook. The thrusters are on a separate system. I'll see if I can hack in and shut them down. Initiating temporary shutdown.
Similar to Thieves in Time, although, like I said, it doesn't have nearly the plot problems that Thieves in Time had. This was also, just released in a bad timing purposes, because again, the PS3 was on its last legs, and what Sony wanted for people instead to play on the console was, of course, The Last of Us.
Okay, last thruster. You're hacking the wrong system. That's the thermodynamic...
I think another problem was that Sony by this point had conditioned fans to expect a Ratchet and Clank title to, basically come out practically yearly, essentially, with how stuff was getting pumped out. Admittedly, to what some may call some decreasing quality, but still, though, like, for the most part, fans were trained to expect a new Ratchet and Clank game basically around the corner each time, so when a new game, you know, practically wasn't in the cards for a while after Into the Nexus, that's when fans got a little worried. Then the 2016 game happened, fans didn't like it, and that's when the franchise really went into hibernation, too much of fans worried.
Not helpful that it was around that time when Insomniac was instead told to focus on a superhero-related, Marvel superhero-related project, which ended up being Spider-Man.
Which, hey, don't get me wrong, fantastic game and all that, but
no, actually,
like with when
not the Fantastic Four.
But like with the Deadpool game, as neat as it was that High Moon Studios was put to Deadpool, it sucked that it came at the cost of them working on what they were well known for at the time, the War for Cybertron, Transformers series, essentially. Which, bafflingly enough, Activision gave to the company that was more actually experienced with superhero games, Edge of Reality, essentially.
Experience is
no,
because, you know, as we noticed with the Hulk game, they were not particularly proficient in it.
Well, yeah, which is, again, a shame, but I'd still rather have put them on the superhero game rather than the War for Cybertron series, because at least the Marvel franchises had more leeway. Transformers was kind of in a bit of a, I don't want to say terrible situation, but, you know, it didn't have nearly as much to go for. Alright.
We don't get a boss fight with Vendra because, you know, tutorial and everything, and instead you're supposed to reactivate her containment field. I don't remember who she's voiced by, but she still sounds familiar. I think Jessica Strauss, maybe?
Nika Futterman.
Oh, Nika Futterman.
Hey, Styx! And also Pandora from Kid Icarus Uprising.
And the Sarge Ventress, I think.
Yes.
Yeah, I think Clone Wars was still happening around this time.
Wait,
it either just ended or...
Wee, poor batteries.
Very nice. Alright, Nika Futterman was also in Deadlocked, remember? She was Juanita, Hydra, Janice, Kid B, and
mostly Juanita, you know, that's who she got to voice for the most part. There you go.
Hey, you know, I love Nika Futterman, so good choice, good choice.
I think the computer is also voiced by Ali Hillis.
Yes, she also has another character, like I said, but it's a bit of a surprise, we'll see later. Alright, it seems that everything is perfectly fine now, nothing else can go wrong, no siree.
And then the ship blew up and everyone died.
No, first another tutorial on something, because in this game, for some reason, it's the plumber who will give you the Rhino eventually. You just need to collect all the parts of the hollow plans. So fucking weird. There you go, now we just need to reactivate the generator. Of course, with this, the traditional Ratchet and Clank bolt crank.
Excelsior! Good going, rookie. Gravity is restored.
However, they were not counting on the fact that, remember, Vendra had a twin. Unfortunately, the twin has brought back up, specifically some familiar faces, the Tux for Less.
Sir, we are within striking distance of the Nebulox. Fire Omni rockets on my mark.
Donkey Kong, what are you doing here?
2, 1, mark.
Huh?
Yeah.
Why did we make
a
radio the big red button?
Just because the Tux for Less are not particularly great at their job, as established.
But that implies that they ordered it that way if they weren't the ones who made their ship.
It will be showcased later, but after the Pedo Bear leader, the Tux for Less kinda rebranded. As a result, they don't really recognize Ratchet immediately, and they're just doing their job, what they're paid for. So there's that. It's been also
Lovely.
a couple of times since the events of Going Commando. But the point is that now that they're working for the Prog Twins, meaning that you have a justification to have them as the mooks. In case you're wondering, the other Prog Twin, Neftin, is voiced by Fred Tatashori, although as you heard, he has a bit of a filter going on. Of course, it's not a Ratchet and Clank game without a glove that actually spits bombs, so it's not a constructor variant from Cronk in Time, but it will suffice.
Also, Fred Tetsushori playing a big, bulky guy. Take a number.
Daring today, aren't we?
I think he was also, you know those Sonic movie shorts that you get on the Blu-ray? I think he was the voice of Knuckles in one of them.
She's escaping.
Warning. Pyrocytic bomb.
And he was also the voice of Lord Zed in the most recent Power Rangers series.
Oh, they brought him back.
Interesting.
Well, no, that was Robert Axelrod for the most part, but he died in 2019.
Oh, my point is that they brought Lord Zed back?
Yeah.
Huh. I guess they really are pumping the nostalgia breaks.
Okay, that must have been a time displaced Lord Zed, because remember, Lord Zed proper was turned good along with Rita Repulsa and most of
It
the
might have been. I
villains
don't know the full details.
I mean, if it was something operating on the Boom Studios, comic, I could imagine them doing something different with it.
Yeah, he voiced Knuckles in the Sonic Drone Home short.
Oh, the one that we watched.
Right, yeah.
So yeah, the Thugs for Less, being a good group of mercenaries that they are, have planted pyrocytic bombs onto the ship. Remember, they already had enough of a stock that Stuart Zergo stole from in the previous game, so I guess these were just, the remaining stockpiled in the warehouse.
Okay, just to recall, Q-Force came out like the year before this game, right? 2012.
Yes.
So yeah, so from All for One to Into the Nexus, they were making a Ratchet and Clank game per year. I can just
You have to
smell
remember
the cuts.
that around this time they also had, slowed down with other titles because Resistance was over. They already had developed Fuse. The only other side project that I mentioned that they had in the works was the submarine game, which I already forgot. Oh, I still have to check on the title. That it's not published by Sony. It's just a self-independent one because at this point Insomniac was not fully owned by Sony. So there was that. They had a bit more time to focus on the budgeted titles they were working on.
Knowing that this game was definitely lauded for, moving back to Crack in Times format after All for One and Q-Force, really does bring me back to how you mentioned during our Q-Force playthrough that it might have been better if they had just folded Q-Force's development time into, just more development time for this game.
I still like the game despite the not being super long. But I can't believe it probably would have been better if the development of Full Frontal Assault / Q-Force had been redirected, like you just
I definitely agree. Like, look, Insomniac are a powerhouse dev team, but they're still just human, and as far as I know, the guys up top in Insomniac are trying to at least keep from being one of those companies that gets a crunch documentary made about them. So,
well, for all we know, it might have still been they still have happened, and we don't know yet the details. Already the messy
that's why I say
development
as
cycle.
far as we know, yeah.
Already the messy development cycle and on both Rift Apart and Spider-Man 2, is not giving good signs on the matter. But
So did this game go for full price?
No, I think it was actually $40.
Okay then, if it's a bit shorter but at least can match up to a $40 release, that's fair and
It also did
fine.
have a physical release, despite the marketing mostly mentioning about being digital, and also, mercifully, it did not have a beta port, if I remember correctly. So that's probably one of the reasons why the development went a bit smoother.
Yeah. It's like they learned all their lessons. That's good and all.
Or they planted their foot down and told Sony no. Because remember, Thieves in Time could not escape that, unfortunately. And that ultimately damaged the game.
And remember, T.O., Thieves in Time had your favorite, the 6-axis as well. I'm guessing Insomniac maybe did put their foot down, but then, of course, we all know Sony put their foot down even louder, I guess, when it came to the 2016 reimagining.
No, remember, Jova, that was an internal conflict because that was an idea of Sean Layden. But then, other executives, including our not super high in level Jim Ryan, questioned that, saying, who wants to play an old game?
6 months? You left me in here for 6 whole months?
This wasn't
so
easy.
yeah, Vendra is a bit, dickish with her brother.
Hire extra muscle.
You are the muscle! Or at least you're supposed to be.
Okay, to be fair, honey, you're criticizing your brother for thinking smartly about this.
Okay, here we go.
The universe looks at you and sees a hero. But do you know what I see? A coward. Someone who lost the guts to find his race.
Let us out of here, you darn witch!
Give me the detonator.
They're just a couple of old war bots. Isn't killing everyone a little...
A little what?
Huh. Okay, I do dig the change of pace where it seems like the one who should be the muscle is actually probably the one who thinks more on this stuff.
That will be elaborated properly later.
Well, huh, okay.
Well, I was right about the ship blowing up.
Oh, seriously. So, yeah, 20 minutes in the game, they kill off Cronk and Zephyr. Why? Because shock value. Because that's what Sony loves to do best.
I don't think they've ever committed to doing this with a character
in case you're wondering, they're robots, they can just rebuild them and everything. No, the end of the game will literally spell it out for you when they're dead.
That really kind of tilts the head, since we have seen robotic characters be rebuilt from, one could say, arguably worse, essentially, in this franchise.
My bigger problem with this is that, what purpose does this serve other than to give that kind of shock value, to demonstrate that things are super serious and everything? Like, I guess... But this game is not particularly super dark compared to, say, a Crack in Time, which maybe on par, I will agree, but, that really did not justify having to take the toys and breaking them out, instead of putting them in the box.
I was actually going to ask, is this the tone that the game is trying to set, essentially, that, oh god, anyone can die, things are more serious than they've ever been before?
Now, to give the game's credit, the story would not pretend, to quickly forget about this and have a laugh at it. If anything, it will be a thing that Ratchet will remind the plot, not constantly, but quite a bit, in case you might forget at certain points. So, at the very least, he has a focus on that. But this feels very, very sloppy and not something that, TJ Pixman would write normally. Something tells me this was like an executive mandate of some kind.
We don't know for certain, but what I will say is weird is, again, even in Crack in Time, which was arguably the darkest plot up before this game, essentially, and no, I'm not counting Deadlock, because, Deadlock was trying to be serious. For the most part, okay, there were kills in Deadlock, but they were treated more... Comedic isn't the right term, but they were treated more...
It felt like they had a purpose.
Oh, well, that happened. Yeah, that too. It's it was to showcase, hey, you're on a Death World planet, essentially, so gear up, soldier, and to be fair, if anyone died, it wasn't, a long-lasting character.
Oh, and there you go. That's how Ratchet and Clank escaped the Tux for Less. They just hop in onto the side of a ship. The Tux for Less are, of course, idiots, and they say, oh, there's no way could have survived that, and the twins do not ask for the bodies, and these gears are here the chance to stow away in some crates.
There doesn't appear to be any intelligent life amongst the wreckage. And
title drop. Again, this is the same kind of problem exactly of The Last of Us Part 2. Considering how Insomniac and Naughty Dog have been buddies, I have to assume Neil Druckmann was a fan of this game. I kind of have to at this point.
Okay, if the game does indeed commit to this plot of how dark this is, sure, but... Okay, and I'll admit, this is a bit of, familiarity bias, but Ratchet and Clank does not feel like the kind of franchise where I come to with a narrative like, oh, these characters are dead. Now, to be fair, Asimov did die a relatively brutal death, but
like
that was near
the
end of Crack of Time.
Similar to Nefarious, again, for the context of a Crack in Time, there was a purpose there, I argue. Here, it really feels too gratuitous for its own good. What, to showcase that the villains mean business? I'm pretty sure there were better ways to do that.
And hey, that's another red flag. The newcomer villain who suddenly appeared out of nowhere is instantly the most deadliest thing, y'all.
Anyway, we can discuss this more in the next part, where Ratchet and Clank actually try to decipher the situation and research more about the Prog twins. See you for that.
See ya.
See ya.